Today I'm telling you why logic is more important than emotion, okay, and how to think more with this and less with this, okay? Now, before we begin, this doesn't mean that you should be emotionless. This doesn't mean that you should be this cold, almost machine-like person. It's nice. It's nice to be like that, but we don't necessarily want to be like this because, well, then our mental health suffers. Then we can't find joy in life, right? So you want to be able to experience emotion. You want to have the ability to allow yourself to do that, but you need to be primarily thinking with this, right? Well, first, let's talk about why it's important that you do that, okay? Because, well, it's just way harder to manipulate you if you're actually thinking with this and not this, right? Because if you're thinking with emotion, then it is not only easy to predict what you will do in any situation, it is also easy for a smart person, so for marketing teams and companies, for any type of salespeople, to predict what you're gonna do and how to manipulate you in order to get what they want from you. So, if someone tries to convince you to buy this new phone, and you're thinking with emotion, because you don't, for example, you don't want to fall behind others, you want to have the newest thing, you don't want to get this feeling of missing out, then, well, you're following emotion, because having the feeling of missing out is being guided by emotion. And so then that salesperson will be able to tell that, oh yeah, this dude isn't really thinking straight, so they're just going to use their marketing on the basis of, well, it's somewhat of a luxurious item, and people who have it are going to be in some way better than people who don't. I hope you understand what I'm saying. So, if you're thinking with emotion and you want to not feel left behind, right? Like everybody has this nice, very nice thing, right? Everybody has this thing, but you don't, right? You don't, and you're sad. That's thinking with emotion. You're feeling sad just because others have something that you perceive to be of value, even though it's really not, if you think about it. Because how much different is an iPhone 15 from an iPhone 16? Not much, right? Like, if you're into iPhones, then I guess you can tell the difference, but if you're not, it's like, whatever, right? But if you're thinking with emotion, then you're going to feel this way, and then a marketing person, right, is going to know, what you feel like, and they're going to try and manipulate you into becoming part of this crowd, which just gives them the psychological affirmation that they can control you. And then not only do you spend money because iPhones are expensive, but you're also going to be more likely to spend money in the future, and it's going to be easier to sell something to you, which isn't really good, right? You don't really want this. And not only that, but you just don't want to be controlled, do you? Like, if someone can control you, then that just just rids you of this feeling of freedom. And we want to be free because we want to be able to do what we want. Like, it's in our nature, right? We want to be our own kings, you know. We want to be in charge of our lives. It's supposed to be a crown, it looks more like hair, but okay. We want to be in charge of our lives. We don't want someone controlling us. We don't want to have a chain on our neck. We don't want to have a metal ball strapped to our ankle, right? We don't want this. So that is why it is important to think with logic, because then it may be easy to predict what we are going to do, because we're human, right? We're algorithms. But it's going to be way harder to manipulate you, because if something is not beneficial to you and you're thinking of logic, then you're not really going to go down that path, right? Like, if you also add to logical thinking, the ability to think in terms of future plans, and actually think in a way that is focused on your future self and your present self, then it's going to also be even easier, right? Okay, but how do you do that? The way that you do that is that you meditate, you do stuff that requires discipline, right? So meditate, this is the most important, because there's a lot of people who do the next things I'm going to mention, but are still very emotional because they don't do this, right? So this is the most important. Okay, discipline, this is not necessarily the gym. It's important to understand that the gym is not the only way to get disciplined. Okay, and then the third thing, or actually no, it should be above the discipline. No socials, and then discipline. Okay, so let's start from the top. Or no, let's start from the bottom. So discipline, right? Discipline is important because if you do something that requires effort, especially mental effort, then you're going to start thinking with emotion, because this is just the way that hard things work, right? It's just the way they operate, right? So that's why you should do hard things, like going to the gym, like even doing some things that are difficult for your brain, right? So not only train your body but also train your mind. And now it's very important that you remember, right, that the gym and those mind exercises are in a sort of dependency, you know. So if you invest time in one of them, then the other, so that's gym and that's brain, okay? So if you invest time in one of them, the other is going to suffer, and vice versa. This doesn't have to happen, but it usually does, okay? It's not like if you do an IQ test, then you're instantly going to become weaker. It's just more that once you do a lot of brain exercises, then you're more likely to continue doing them, because that's just the way it is. It becomes fun for you, right? But then you start to neglect this because of the nature of how time works. If you spend a lot of time on one thing, then you're going to have to spend less time on another thing, right? This works the other way around as well. You really can switch this, right? So if you're going to the gym a lot, then you're not going to be developing your mind as much. And I don't mean mind as in determination, discipline, but I mean the mind as in just your ability to like see patterns, just your intelligence in general, because of course both brain exercises and the gym will build discipline, but they do it in different ways and they have different side effects to them, right? So it's important that you keep this in mind, okay? So that's discipline. Now let's get on to no socials. This is self-explanatory. No Instagram, no TikTok. I don't care that you have friends on Instagram. I don't really care. You can have them in your contacts, like, you know, call them on the phone. You can have them on Facebook, on Messenger, which is honestly better. I'd say it's better than Instagram, because Instagram is just so much more addictive. TikTok, I'm not even going to talk about TikTok. Like, no reason you should have it. YouTube is much better. There's just no reason you should have TikTok if you're watching content on it, because it's just useless to you. It's not going to give you any benefits. Okay? So that's socials. Now, meditation is the thing I preach the most about on this channel. The single most important thing in this channel is meditating. I cannot stress this enough. You need to be meditating. You need to be meditating. You need it, okay? Because when you meditate, you give your brain the ability to think from an outsider's perspective. You gain the ability to think relatively objectively. You start perceiving everything from your POV, right? And you start being able to perceive stuff from a different point of view, right? You start being able to perceive things from a different point of view, right? So let's say there is something, right? And you see it in one way, but there is a hidden aspect to it that you just don't see, because you don't have the ability to look at something from a different point of view. You can only perceive the world through your own lens, so you don't think about stuff in terms of what would that particular person do in this situation. You only think in terms of what would I do in this situation, which isn't always good, okay? But one of the many positive side effects of meditating is that you start thinking more logically. You start being able to read people, because once you start being able to look at problems from other people's points of view, you start also being able to read them. You start to be able to predict what they're going to do. And you can, in a way, of course, become that marketing person I talked about earlier, right? You start to be able to, in a sort of way, manipulate people. Of course, this doesn't have to be negative, right? Like, you can do things for like for example, if you know a person is going to commit a mistake, then you can manipulate them to the better path, right? So if someone has some stupid idea, like walk up to a guy and like shove him or like say something disrespectful, then you can manipulate them, not just tell them no, don't do that, but manipulate them to not doing it, right? This works better if you know the person, right? Yeah, so that's why you should think with logic and not with emotion, because it just brings so many benefits. And of course, as I said before, you shouldn't completely eliminate emotion. It's nice to be able to feel stuff, but you should be able to separate your emotions from yourself, right? They should not be this one thing, Okay, those should be two different things. This should be your logical self, this should be your emotional self. They can't be fused. Okay, you have to be able to tap into this one, and you can't let go of it, but you also can't let it control you, right? So that's it from me. Sleep well, do better, and I'll see you.